Go ahead.
Hey guys, welcome to another brand new episode of the Infectious Geek. My name is Tori Rush and I am your host this evening. My co-host, the ever beautiful, the ever magnificent, the other, amazing, intelligent, sassy, bitchy, wonderful co-host of mine, Tabby, is with me
Yes,
today.
hello.
How are you today, Tabby?
I'm good, honey. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. Hanging in there. And we have a special guest who's going to be sharing my phone because we couldn't figure out how to do it on his phone. But he is a corpsman in the Navy, but he does it for the Marines, so he's a medic and he knows all about prepping and he brought a whole bunch of shit to show. And it's Andrew. He's waving.
Hi.
Hi. All right. So today we're going to talk about prepping. And we all know that one guy who hoards a bunch of shit thinking that, the end of the world is any day now. Everything on the news is about to have, is the end of days, and he has thousands of cans of green beans and a whole bunch of shit in his pantry, and you all think he's nuts. But I'm telling you, he knows what's up because honestly, I believe in the next 50 years, something serious is going to happen and society as we know it will break down. What do you think, Tabby?
Well, I think it'll happen in our lifetime for sure. Definitely.
Well, if you think about it, we're 30 something, we're 30, 35.
Yeah.
And in 50 years, we'll be in our 80s. So that's a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure my math was right and I wasn't trying to jump the gun. Because, because of our Walking Dead group, we tend to want this apocalypse to happen so we can all be
Not
people as
just any
possible.
apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse.
Yes, just so we can.
And not 28 days later zombies, Walking Dead zombies that are slow and stupid.
Yes. Oh, by the way, let's take a moment of silence for the late, the great, the godfather of all zombies, George Romero, who has passed away this past week. He was an amazing, amazing influence. In fact, Robert Kirkman said, if it wasn't for him, The Walking Dead wouldn't have been created. And Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, The Crazies, all these wonderful movies, they wouldn't have been around from him. So the zombie apocalypse theory wouldn't have been created if it wasn't for this guy. You know what I mean? So you have had a couple stats that I asked you to gather, as always. So what did you come up with this week?
So there is no accurate figure of the number of preppers in the United States, but they estimate it to be between 3 and 4 million. So that's quite a big number of people here. 22% of the population believes that the world will end in their lifetime.
Only 22?
Yes. So I don't know what everybody else is doing, but they need to get with it.
Right?
They need to open up their eyes and quit with the lattes, for sure.
Step away from your iPhones. See the world for what it is.
Quit worrying about your Uggs and watch the news.
Snapchats.
Yes. So 4 in 10 Americans believe we're living in the end times already.
Okay.
So that is what I gathered, which is very interesting because that's a pretty high number out of 10.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think that the surge of believers have probably increased with shows like The Walking Dead, with movies like 28 Days Later, with the CDC putting out a zombie apocalypse plan. Like that's the end thing. the kitschy thing that everybody wants to be a part of is the zombie apocalypse thing. So I think there's way more people nowadays that are taking it more seriously than in past times. But
well, in the early
Andrew had something
2000s, it was climate change movies, remember?
Oh, well, yeah. Thanks, Al Gore.
Yeah.
Global warming is real, guys. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I can't believe people don't believe in that. It's so it's so sad. I'm like, really? Then the polar ice caps are melting for no reason. I'm okay. All right.
Right.
All right,
That's
you
a
believe
whole
whatever
nother
you
show.
want. Okay, so I said something earlier, and Andrew actually had an answer to it, and we didn't. So here, you tell him. They're not going to respond.
Oh, all right. So, Tabby, the numbers you were saying are probably as accurate as they can be, but I personally know a lot of these guys that, several of these guys that do like legitimately believe in prepping and preparing for emergencies and disasters, and it ranges widely. But a lot of these guys are anti-establishment.
Yes.
And more like anarchists. So they're not going to submit to a survey of any kind.
Very true.
These guys don't use Facebook. These guys don't. A lot of them don't have cell phones.
Or social security numbers.
A lot of stuff like that. They off the grid type stuff. Yes. So you can probably take that 3 or 4 million and double it for the an actual number in the U.S.
That makes sense.
Because I've met guys. I mean, when I actually kind of have my section of this, I'll talk about it. There's different degrees of how serious people take this.
Yes.
But I'm going to hand you back to Tori, and you guys keep talking about what you're talking about.
Okay, so I figure we could start by talking about different types of apocalyptic behavior, breakdowns in society, basically. So you can consider anything from a worldwide blackout or anything. So one of them is pandemics, having illnesses spread throughout the world, which is basically a lot of zombie apocalypse theory. There's a virus out there that turns people into zombies, and then it spreads all over the world, and that's the zombie apocalypse. It, mildly, I guess. But there's other things, and we have seen it in the past, like the Black Plague, like tuberculosis, Ebola, influenza, smallpox. Yes, smallpox was a big one. All these AIDS is a new one, but these all could potentially break down modern day society, which would lead us into your cell phone's not working, there's no power, and then what do? Well, then you got the epidemics. They're a little smaller than pandemics, but they're still basically the same thing, except they can be a little more quarantined, and they seem to fizzle out before they reach worldwide status. So no influenza. Like it's a little bit smaller than that. Kind of like the bird flu or the swine flu. That's kind of more of an epidemic. But in today's society, we seem to be able to stop it before it becomes something way worse than it used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We used to have tuberculosis. The sanitariums turned into tuberculosis centers, and all these people were dying, and they couldn't stop it. Well, now we can stop it a lot faster, and we have modern medicine, and it seems to be less of a problem than it used to. But it still could be the end of all days. It could, there could be a super bug out there that will wipe out all of us, that is immune to all antibiotics, and you can't stop it.
Absolutely.
Now, there's also martial law. The government says, fuck you, we're going to take over, we're going to take your guns, we're going to put you in these camps, and we're not going to let you leave. Yeah, now, I'm not a real expert on martial law, so if anybody can add to this, okay, Andrew, what exactly is martial law?
Okay. In my understanding, martial law is generally done in small doses. It wouldn't be a countrywide or nationwide thing. If there is unrest, let's look at Katrina. Okay, perfect example. Martial law was declared in New Orleans, and what that means is the National Guard will get called in, and they will take place of the police force, and they will become a police force, and they will govern. The rules set in place, curfews, census data is taken, who is in what buildings, where, names, stuff like that. It's a very useful thing to declare martial law, and a lot of people think of it as something bad or the government's turning against us. It's not necessarily it. If the local police department can't control the situation, the National Guard is activated, martial law is declared, and the situation is brought under control. So martial law would be a smaller area. I was talking about the different types of apocalypse, and I wanted to throw in something about that. The three main types of, I guess, apocalypse, or it's very commonly referred to as SHTF. Stands for shit hits the fan. Preppers use SHTF as an acronym for everything. So infrastructure breakdown, economic breakdown. It's actually a very feasible thing, and it's happened in other countries. The dollar becomes useless. Nobody's getting paid. Things get shut off. Water, electric, gas, trash doesn't get taken out. Police force goes on strike. That becomes more of an anarchy thing. You see that the biggest problems with that would be in large cities, large urban areas. Out in the rural areas, it's not going to be that bad. The open suburbs and the farmlands and the open country and towards the center of the country, they're not really going to see much of that because everyone is of habit. If something bad happens and the logical course of action is to leave the immediate area, most people won't unless they're forced to. That's why evacuations have to be done. And even with evacuations, a lot of people don't leave. So economic infrastructure breakdown. The next one would be what you guys were talking about, disease. It's definitely less likely in America because of the advances in healthcare, the advances in medicine. Another one would be natural disasters. Natural disasters will generally be somewhat contained. Katrina, Sandy. Sandy actually devastated the East Coast 2011, I believe. Haiti is a big one. So weather is a big thing. With you guys were talking about climate change. Climate change is a thing. And if it ever came down to it, people will start to lose their minds. So another less feasible one would be nuclear. But right now, with Korea being how they are, they just tested an intercontinental ballistic missile that could reach Alaska.
Yep.
A few weeks ago. So they have capabilities. Their weapons that could cause a nuclear winter. Here, I'll give you back to Tori, and you guys will keep talking. I'm just going to keep jumping in. So.
Well, he's very informative, and I didn't know some of that stuff. I'm supposed to be the leader of my pack, and I don't know all the stuff that I should know. Sorry, guys. So
Nobody
Tabby
knows everything.
No, I know. I should know I am Oz. I should know it. I'm sorry. That was my ego. I'm sorry. Anyway, so All right, so we're going to switch from different types of worldwide disasters to lead us into society breaking down, to lead us into total chaos, right? If there's no power, if there's no clean water, if there's the shelters are all, all the houses, you're in the middle of the woods, you get caught up, you need to spend the night somewhere. There's three main things to survive. And if people camp, this is what they start out with to set up their campsites. If people are caught up in like the desert or some sort of, you're hiking somewhere and you fall and then, that kind of thing. There are three main things that you need to do. You need to have a fresh water supply that you can drink. So you need water. You need fire for protection, light, and to cook your food with if you happen to so hunt and or gather. And you need shelter to, of course, you can't brave the elements all the time. So you need shelter in order to sleep in, to stay out of the sun, etc. So basically, let's talk about different water filters. Now,
Yes.
You, in your bug out bag, I know personally, Tabby, you have a thing called a life straw, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, why don't you tell us about the life straw?
So, the life straw comes in a plastic bag like this. It is a personal water purifying filter. So you can put this in some pretty rancid water and it will filter it and give you fresh enough water for you to drink. And if I remember correctly, it lasts for so many 100 drinks or something like that.
Yeah, some of them are for gallons, some of them are for
this is just
drinks.
a personal one that fits in your bug out bag. A lot of people have invested in the big ones.
Do you have anything else for water in your bug out bag?
I have a solar shower, which you can also carry water in, and it serves two purposes. And then I have packets of water, because those are important to have.
Yeah.
And as far as water stuff goes, that is all I have.
You don't have a water shaker.
Okay, well.
What this is.
All right, so I'm going to hand it over back to Andrew, who has lots of things to say about water filters because he's probably dealt with them for firsthand experience.
Hey guys, sorry I keep jumping in and out. I'm not trying to take over this podcast, but this is something that I'm really passionate about.
Go ahead.
All right, so water. Water is the number one thing. What Tori was saying, water, fire, shelter, I would add food and take out fire because immediately you need water and you need food and you need shelter. After that, you can start looking at fire, personal protection, and stuff like that. Because without water, you will dehydrate and die. Without food, you don't have the energy to make the shelter. And without shelter, you could get sick. So those are my top three in that order: water, food, shelter. For water, there's two different ways of disinfecting water: chemical and physical. All right. Sometimes you have to do both. Sometimes you have to do one or the other. Chemical disinfection is used with, just cleaning products. Ordinary table bleach. A few drops in a canteen of water will disinfect the water. Okay. The best thing to do in your bug out bag is carry a very small dropper bottle. Actually, the vape liquid bottles are perfect sizes. I think it's 30 milliliters. Because you only need a few drops. So another really good one is iodine tablets, and they market these specifically for, and I've carried these, and they come in a little glass vial, and you add 1 per quart of water. It definitely makes the water. I've used them before. Actually, real quick background, I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I've had to use them the iodine tablets in Iraq before because we ran out of clean water. They taste horrible. Boiling usually helps, but you should always boil water no matter what, even if you're chemically sanitizing water. Always boil it, which fire does come into account for that. Physical disinfection or physical treatment of water involves the filters like what Tabby had with the Life Straw. Now, most of these filters, Brita, Life Straw is really cool. They actually have been handing it out in African and third world countries that don't have water treatment. And they've been not human rights, but like Greenpeace and American Red Cross, they've been sending thousands of these Life Straws for people to use. So that's really cool. So what's inside those is charcoal. It's basically just a charcoal filter. And you can make a charcoal filter with burnt wood. So if you do get a fire, you grind up the charcoal, and there's a couple different ways to do it. I go camping solo, and I try different things when I go camping. Because everything's good in theory, but until you actually do it, you don't know how it actually will work. So I've used a sock. You take a sock, and on the bottom is going to be charcoal. In the middle, small pebbles, and on the top, larger rocks. Okay. So what you need to do is big to small to the bottom. And as you pour the water through the sock, it will filter large pieces down to small pieces. Another way to do it is taking a bottle, like a plastic water bottle, and doing the same thing. Anything, you just poke holes in the bottom. A lot of people carry cheesecloth. That's a really good way to filter water.
A bra?
Mm-hmm.
A bra?
A bra, any fabric, t-shirt, socks. So water is very important. Now, when you're looking for a water source, location is key. You want something that's moving. Stagnant water breeds bacteria. It also breeds insects, such as mosquitoes, which they transmit disease. So you don't want to be near standing water. You need to be near flowing water, such as a creek or a river. Now what you want to do is scout upstream and then downstream to see what is on that river. If there's any industrial areas near that river, they usually drain certain stuff into that water. It leaches also out of the ground. Also, you want to look for animals. You want to be upstream from where animals drink, because animals pee and poop into water. So you want to be upstream from that. Let's see, what else? That's the majority for water. Water is definitely the most important thing. Now, containers for water. Containers are very important because if you have to move, you can't carry the stream with you. Best bet is to follow the stream, stay near its banks. But I learned something really cool quite a long time ago. Dunkin' Donuts does a box of Joe. Has anybody seen that before?
Mm-mm.
So it's a big cardboard box. I wish I had the insert, but I have several at home. It's a big cardboard box, and inside of it is basically like a Mylar bag that they fill with coffee, and people buy it for like conferences and meetings and jobs. And what you do is you take the cardboard box apart, and there's a very large, almost like a silver bag, and it is extremely tough. I think it's almost a gallon of water. It is designed to hold very hot liquids. So if you boil your water, you can put it in there. And it breaks down to very small. You can empty it, roll it up, and there's a screw cap to it. When you fill it, it's really cool because instead of some of these other things that create like a large square, it's long. So it'll fit at the bottom of a pack, or it will fit in a pack a lot better. And I have my pack that I use for camping and in any situation, and I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Another thing about water where water is not accessible. So arid environments, deserts. Find plants. You can get water from cactus. Cactus are always a good source. Usually there's sometimes you can find groundwater, but if you can't access that, so if you can find a plant with green leaves, you want to take a plastic bag and you want to tie it around a branch. Tie it real tight. Then you're going to what you want to do is put a small rock in the bottom of that bag so it hangs. The plants give off water vapor. So that slowly, over the course of, it's kind of a slow option, but you will get water from those plants. Another good way to do it in the desert is dig a hole, put a piece of plastic over the hole, and secure it with dirt around the top. Put a cup on the bottom, in the hole, in the center. Take a rock and put it on the plastic so it bows. And what will happen is water vapor and condensation and groundwater will collect on the plastic like dew, and it will follow the plastic to where it dips, and it will drip into your container, such as a cup. Let's see. Water for, cooking. Once we get into food, water will play a big part in the different ways of cooking. So, Tori, you want me to keep going?
No, I'll be right there.
Okay.
So we're gonna anything else for water?
That's what I have now for water. I can talk about this for hours, but I'm not going to.
All right, so we're going to go to food because obviously that's number 2 on his list. And good. So he has a lot of MREs, which should already be part of your bug out bag. If they are not already, please find some. You can buy them. And, yes.
I have some.
Tabby is a civilian. Now, remember that Andrew is military, so he has different ways of getting them. Where did you get yours for the people that are not?
Ordered mine online from the Wise company. See?
Okay. How much did they cost?
I got the whole bug out bag with everything for $70. And it's enough food and water for one adult for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's a good investment if anybody's looking into a bug out bag because it's a good start.
Yes.
And if you have to trek, you at least have, you have 2 weeks worth of supplies if you have to be out on your own.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we also have to iterate with these bug out bags is you have to get things that don't take up a lot of room and are not too heavy, because you're going to be running from situations. You're going to have to be carrying this over long periods of time, and you don't want something that's going to slow you down. You want something
and everything
that's going
should be in plastic.
Yeah,
I cannot stress that enough. Because if your stuff gets wet, then you're screwed.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've ever, people out there, probably everybody has seen like Survivor Man or Bear Grylls or something like that. They always have like ingenious ways of not getting their flints wet or whatever. But like, they don't really get into like, well, what can you bring with you that's going to not weigh a lot? So MREs are really good because they don't take up a lot of room. They are lightweight and they feed you for a longer period of time, and it's better than scavenging for food, and it's easier than hunting for food. So not saying that you shouldn't know how to hunt, because let's make this clear. Learning how to hunt animals and kill them, and fish and foraging and fishing and scavenging, like, different plants, different nuts, different berries, different fruits. You should know in your local area the native plants that are poisonous and that are okay to eat. And most libraries you can, and in Barnes and Noble, there's plenty of books that you can look up your native plant species to wherever you are in the world, in the country, what state ever, whatever, and they will tell you what's good to eat and what's not good to eat.
Get a military field guide. Those are great.
Military field guides, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I read the SEAL handbook, and it had a whole bunch of stuff in there too.
Yes.
I remember copying that for hours like a couple years ago, because I'm actually, not to toot my own horn, but I'm writing my own survival guide. So I looked into lots of different resources, and most of the stuff I found were from military-esque groups and or the military, because basically that's what they're trained to do. That's what, they're trained to survive in all sorts of different situations. And you should also have different things for different weather climates, regardless of what the weather's like at the time of the outbreak or whatever happens. Because seasons change, as we have seen in The Walking Dead. And Georgia might be hot as hell during the summer, but it gets cold down there. It snowed in Atlanta. It gets cold. I'm from Virginia. I live in Virginia Beach. It gets cold around here just as hot as it gets around here. So, you have to keep that into account whenever you're getting clothing. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So here are some MREs that Andrew brought. You showed yours, right, Tabby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure did.
So did you have anything to add? Because I feel like we're leaving you out a little bit.
No, I mean, you guys are trucking along, covering everything, so I'm good. I'm getting in there every once in a while.
I'm taking over.
No, you're fine, because this is what the podcast is about. He keeps apologizing for knowing things. Good God, we're trying to inform people. You're supposed to know things. All right. Oh, okay. So here, show everybody what you have.
All right, guys. So, food. Now, food is very important. Without food, you have no energy. Without energy, you're stuck. Okay. So, MREs. I'm going to go over a few different stuff you can buy first. After I go over, because I also have some freeze-dried food, which is actually really cool. MREs are good, but they have a somewhat limited shelf life. Okay, usually, as long as they're kept in a good condition, dry, room temperature around 72, they're good for up to 10 years, at least. 6 years is kind of the cutoff for the military. After that, they throw them out. Now, I live in a military barracks, and I'm also a resident advisor, which means I have to take care of the barracks, make sure everybody's okay and stuff like that. Now, because we have hurricanes, I have to keep several cases of MRE stocked in my room in case something happens and we get secured to the barracks. Usually, I get resupplied every year. So I have, I'd say, at least 15 cases of MREs in my barracks room in a closet. Half of those would be going towards the sailors, Marines, and soldiers and airmen that all live in my barracks. This is one of the boxes. So I'm going to show you guys. I don't know if you can see it. I'm not good with this thing.
The camera's at the top. So.
Okay. So here's the box. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Pretty much talking to Tabby.
All right. So as you see, all right, can I flip the camera? All right, hang on. I'm going to flip the camera so I can see what I'm looking at.
Flip.
Is it flipped?
No. I don't know why it's not flipping. No, you can't.
Okay. That's all right. All right, so on the case it says, obviously, meal, ready to eat, individual. Now, the reason these are really great is they are high calorie, okay? they're designed, I'm going to sit you down real quick so I can open this. They're designed to sustain us in the field under high physical strain situations. So they're very high in protein. They're very high in calories. They are very high in sodium. So there's two different types of cases. You've got A and B. It's just the different menu selections, okay? So I just opened this box, and this is what they look like, okay? So it says Department of Defense, United States of America up top. Then it says what type it is. It says menu number 9, beef stew, okay? And down there it says meal MRE, meal ready to eat individual. So over the past 14 years that I've been in the Navy, I have seen these change incredibly. When I first joined, they were disgusting. There was some really bad ones, and there was some really bad stuff, like stuff inside that no one ate. So if there's any military listening to this right now, I'm going to mention charms. Charms were basically square lifesavers. And service-wide, any military service, they were bad luck. You never ate the charms. You always threw them out. It was just bad luck. So I'm going to read off all the different MREs in this case real quick. So you already saw beef stew. Next one is chicken, noodles, and vegetables in sauce. Next, beef taco. That one's pretty good.
You never have a bad taco.
Oh, here it is. All right, this is the greatest MRE ever created. Chili and macaroni. Okay?
Chili mac.
Chili mac. The chili mac MRE is the highest coveted MRE since I joined back in 2003. Okay? And I don't know, it's the best one. All right, next is chicken and tomato with feta. They make these sound really good. It's not as gourmet as you think. Next one's gonna be brisket.
That sounds pretty good.
This is another good one. Meatballs and marinara. These are the pasta ones are really good.
So, are these real meat? Is this all
Yeah.
like, or is it soy based?
Nope, everything's real.
Everything's real. Okay.
Everything's real. There is, all right, so I just pulled a vegetarian. So there are vegetarians. This is the vegetarian is kind of a new thing. When I first joined, when I was with the Marines back in 04 to 2010 and in 2011, early on, there wasn't vegetarian MRE. You ate what you were given, and nobody cared. They've developed vegetarian ones. This one is penne with vegetable sauce, crumble, and spicy tomato. Like I said, it sounds way better than it was. All right, vegetable lasagna. There's another veggie one. All right, pork sausage and cream. So, let's see. Yes, we're going to break it open. I'm going to break open the chili mac. Oh, my goodness. Chicken fajita is actually really good. There's a whole other case of 12 other ones called case B. I only grabbed the one, but there's a tuna fish
We cannot hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
I think I was blocking the microphone with my finger. All right, so now the outside packaging is like a plastic. It says peel at the top. Half the time that rips, and I'm just going to cut it open.
It should also be in your bug out bag, a very sharp knife. Just saying.
So, there's a bunch of stuff in this, okay? Let me spread it out.
Skittles.
Yep, there's Skittles in this one. They have, like, sometimes you'll see M&M's, sometimes you'll see Skittles. All right, so let me show you guys this. This is, I'm sorry, I'm not good with this camera. Wait, maybe that'll work. Okay. All right, can you guys see some of this stuff? So I'll hold it up because I don't know if I'm pointing it correctly. All right, first thing, this is cheese spread. This stuff's awesome. There's also another kind that's called cheese spread with jalapenos. It's great. Next is going to be this is how your main meal comes, okay? It's in a cardboard box, and inside that is a pouch. This is the chili macaroni.
Oh, boy.
That's what it looks like. It's just a foil packet. Very simple. It's got what it is inside of it. Now,
isn't this where Spam comes from like World War II? Isn't that the reason? I don't know. You're fine.
I'm not sure about Spam. I think Spam was created for America during the Great Depression and during the wars for us to have something to eat.
Only Americans would eat that nasty shit.
Do you
Just
know
saying.
This is delicate.
They treat Spam like Asians treat ramen?
Why?
Like, I mean, I don't know.
It's in everything.
Probably because during World War II, a lot of that was sent to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So, all right, here's a good little snack, just plain crackers, okay? Now, they usually have some kind of a dessert. This is called a spiced pound cake. These are awesome. And Tori mentioned this one, Skittles.
Nice.
Some have M&Ms. Some have Twizzlers. I've seen Tootsie Rolls. They usually have some type of, candy. Next thing in here is this very large pouch with powdered grape beverage. Okay?
So grape Kool-Aid.
Basically, grape Kool-Aid. So it has electrolytes and carbohydrates in it, which is two things you absolutely need for energy. So two other things that are in this. I'm going to start with this. This is the heater. It's water activated. Okay? Now, if you're short on water, I would just not use it. But I would save it. Because in an evacuation situation where you are not trying to hide, but you're trying to be found, okay? Helicopters use something called a FLIR, forward-looking infrared, and they also have thermals. So helicopters will look for heat signatures. So this little heater, I don't know if you can see, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. You can cut these sections apart, get them wet, and they will heat up, and you can mark your location without having to expose yourself. We're taught to do this if we're ever behind lines and we need to get picked up. We will put this on a roof in all 4 corners of the roof, and they will look for us in that location. But the heater, unfortunately, with some of the older MREs, it doesn't work. I've had several that I've added water to, and it just won't heat up. When it does, something to keep in mind about the heaters is they release carbon monoxide. So never do it in a car, in a tent, or in any type of closed space with no ventilation, because you will get carbon monoxide poisoning and you could die. Last little thing, and that's a really cool addition.
Now you know.
It's a really cool addition. This is just a Ziploc bag, and it's for your drinks, okay? And you can put hot beverages in this. It's got, the directions, but it's got ounce lines and stuff like that. So it's really cool. I always use this for my cell phone. So if I go out in the field and I don't want my cell phone to get wet. It fits perfectly. Hold on one second.
Oh, okay. So, well, that was pretty interesting. Is that break open your one of your MREs, Tabby, to see what's inside of one of yours?
I haven't broken any open. I'm sure it's like, what do I have here? Creamy pasta and vegetable rotini.
Ooh.
That sounds good. So, what do we have here? Whey milk alternative. So this is like your fancy gourmet food that you order off the internet.
Yes.
Southwest
So there's like
Racing.
fresh market MREs.
Yeah, these are like your glamping freaking MREs, you know?
Do you have snacks in yours?
I don't have snacks like that. I'm kind of jealous. I'm gonna get some of those MREs. I didn't get any Skittles or anything.
Ohio. Wait, so
All right,
there's one more part of this that he needs to talk about.
So this is one more thing. It's pretty good. This is the, it's good on this, but this is called an accessory packet. And in this you have matches, which are very helpful, obviously. And these matches on the package state, these matches are designed specifically for damp climates, but they will not light when wet or after long exposure, which is several weeks, to very damp air. So these are designed for high humidity, okay? Next thing in here is, where is it? Instant freeze-dried coffee. It's pretty good stuff, not necessary. Next is non-dairy creamer for your coffee. Couple little packets of sugar.
Which could also be a good pick-me-up.
Indeed.
I wouldn't go with sugar. A good packet of salt, which is extremely useful to retain water, because water alone won't solve your problems. You need sodium. Next is ground red pepper. It's kind of cool. The old ones used to come with a little tiny baby glass vial of Tabasco sauce. So that was really cool. They've got a moist towelette, which baby wipes, being able to clean yourself is extremely important to prevent infection and stuff like that. There is a very small amount of toilet paper, which it's not, there's not much in there, but be used to start a fire.
True.
And the last little thing is just these like cinnamon chewing gum. So there's some creature comforts, but with MREs, you don't have to carry this entire pouch, okay? So what I used to do in Iraq when we would go on patrols, you have to carry 3 to 4 days worth of food and 3 to 4 days worth of water with limited space and weight. So what we would do is we would field strip these, and we would take only the necessities. So generally, you take your main meal. If you really care about eating, because these don't have to be cooked. They absolutely do not have to be cooked. They are ready to eat right out the package. I generally don't cook mine in the field. So you've got your main meal in the cardboard box. You grab usually the like the cheese spread. There's also peanut butter, and I think there's like bacon cheese spread now. You grab those two things, the crackers, something to snack on, and what you'll do, these also come with a spoon. So,
wow.
And the spoon's very, very important. So what you do is you take this, just like that, whatever you think you are going to need, and then you just wrap some duct tape around it. So now that is a meal by itself. So we package it that way. Any questions? I mean, I could go on and on about MREs, how to cook them, how to eat them, how to make them last, how to
Oh yeah,
make them taste good.
Let's talk about shelf life. So like after you open one of these, right, and you don't, let's say you don't eat it all. How long will it last before you shouldn't eat it?
You mean the food? Like if I open the package of food,
yes.
I would eat it immediately because bacteria starts to grow very quickly. So within 4 hours.
Right. So you can't just like hold on to it for a couple of days. Nope. This is like you open it and eat it. There's no shelf life on it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
very important for some people because
I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I understand like the rationing portion. You don't want to eat all your food at once, but you definitely don't want it to sit out at room temperature or outdoor temperature for more than 4 hours because then you run the risk of getting food poisoning. And if you don't have access to medicine, you could die. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to move on from MREs. MREs are great, but they take up a lot of space, and they're not always the greatest option. The next thing I'm going to talk about is dehydrated or freeze-dried food. There's a difference between the two. Dehydrating food takes away a lot of its vitamins, its nutrients, and it also leaves a little bit of water, so you have a much shorter shelf life on dehydrated food. But the positive with dehydration, you can do it at home. A dehydrator is $30 to $40 at Walmart, and you can dehydrate just pretty much any type of food. Now, that being said, freeze drying. Freeze drying is a very complex process that up until last year was not an in-home thing. They now have come up with in-home freeze dryers that are about $5,000 right now. But freeze drying retains all the nutrients. Its shelf life is 20 plus years, 20 to 25 years. And it usually tastes a lot better when you reconstitute it. Reconstitute means adding hot water and making it food again. So I have a few things. I have two right here. And one is, this is from a company called Patriot Pantry. All right. I'm not advocating any specific company, but I am going to say this. Mormons. Okay. The Mormons, and I'm not even kidding, have their own business where they sell freeze-dried food and survival food because literally part of the Mormon faith is being prepared for the end of days. So they are probably one of the biggest prepper organized things in this country. I have several friends that are Mormon just from being in the Navy with them, and they've explained some things to me, and it's incredible. They have huge stockpiles of food throughout the country, mostly in the Midwest, Utah, where they congregate. So, Patriot Pantry, not too expensive. This is what it looks like. This is for 4 servings. So this is if you have multiple people. I wouldn't eat all of it at once, but 4 servings. Now, all you have to do with this is add hot water, okay, or add water. It's like when you make ramen noodles. You can add water and it'll reconstitute. But if you add hot water, it works a lot better. So this one is cottage cheese mac and cheese. And the other one I have is creamy stroganoff. Now, per serving, you're looking at 310 calories, 10 grams of fat, 830 milligrams of sodium, 7 grams of protein. Okay? Now, like I said, calories, sodium, and protein are very important for energy, for electrolytes, water retention, and just to be able to function. So I grabbed the catalog that I ordered these from, and they've got some really cool stuff.
What's it called? What's the name of it?
It's called Patriot.
For Patriots.
That's for Patriots, but it's Patriot Pantry is the company.
Okay.
So
let's say catalog to buy that stuff.
So it's Patriot Pantry. I mean, they've got stew, fettuccine, broccoli, mac and cheese. I mean, I'll go on and on. But so these guys sell large scale stuff. If you can see that is a 1-year food supply. And they also have the life straws in them. I don't see. Let's see. I don't see a price, but I think that's all right. So the 1 year food supply, $1,000. But they have. I mean, these are really a really good company. They also have 3 months. So they've got 1 year, and it all comes in these these containers, these large plastic containers for easy storage. They have oatmeal, powdered milk, cream of wheat, mashed potatoes, orange energy drink, chocolate pudding, chicken and rice, potato soup, traveler's stew, potato cheddar soup, instant white rice, traditional fettuccine alfredo, mac and cheese, broccoli rice soup, banana chips, stroganoff, corn chowder, Italian lasagna, and chicken noodle soup. It also looks like it has, I believe, coffee. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 life straws. It also has something called seed vaults. So a big thing that people have been concentrating on lately is heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds are something that the government put together back during the Depression, and heirloom seeds can stay in a container for 20 to 30 years or longer, and you can plant them, and they will grow. They will grow plants that will create more seeds. So, in a long-term situation, heirloom seeds are a great investment. So they've got 3 months. They've got 4 weeks. The 4-week one is only $200. Let's see. They've got, if you have a chance, look up Patriot Pantry online. They're a really good company. Let's see. What's that? Have you heard of Patriot Pantry or any of these companies that sell freeze-dried food, Tabby?
No.
Okay. All the sporting goods stores, all the camping stores, they sell different kinds. I really like freeze-dried food because it's lighter, and when you make it food again, when you put water in it, it still has all of the calories, the vitamins and nutrients, the everything that's involved in it that was in the food before they freeze-dried. So
Right.
someday I will have a home freeze dryer, and that is one of the coolest things ever because, again, 25-year shelf life. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely.
So let me walk over here. All right, so there's really 2 different situations. Yeah, there's 2 different situations for a shit hits the fan type incident. You either stay in place or you run. Staying in place depends on the situation. If you're in a secure place and you feel safe and you are able to protect your area, then you can stay. I have a book. It's called The Emergency Pantry Handbook. What it talks about is how to stockpile food, how to rotate your stockpile, what types of foods. It talks about canning. It talks about pickling. It talks about dehydrating, freeze drying, and stuff like that. It's a good book. I got it off of Amazon. It's by Kate Rowinski, and there's actually some decent stuff in here. They've got some recipes for different things, cornbread, soda bread, and then towards the back, they talk about pickling, how to grow mushrooms. And then in the back, it has home remedies, which first aid and medicine is a whole huge subject for me because I've been trained on that for 14 years now. All right, that's more of a bug out bag food. I'd like to mention, if you are going to stay put, what the best things to carry, to keep in your house: dry goods, canned goods. Everything has an expiration date, But the expiration date is for taste, not safety. Okay? If the can, and I'm actually going to pick up a can that I have sitting right here. This is a can of refried beans. Okay? The expiration date states 5 June 2019. Most of the time, companies put expiration dates on their food because, well, first off, they want you to buy more food. Second off, the taste will degrade. It is still safe to eat past 2019. So these can stay as long as the can stays intact. 15 years, you can still open a can and eat it. But you have to pay attention to the can itself, the metal. You look at the ring to check for rust. You check the top. If the top is flat, that's good. If it's pushed out and you press it down and it springs back up, that's called a springer. What that means is there is a buildup of gas inside the can. And usually that is found in tomato sauces and tomatoes. And that's botulism. Botulinum toxin grows in canned goods. But you check the sides. Dents in the side of a can are not dents in the bottom down here and the top up here, because that's what breaks the seal. And if they're dented, I wouldn't trust them. So, but canned goods are great. Whatever you keep at home, minimal cooking. Stuff that you can prepare with minimal cooking, because you may not have the ability to cook. Heat water. So canned goods are great. They're ready to eat right out of the can. Fruit, vegetables. Dry goods such as pastas and cereals and grains and rice. Grains are a great thing to have because they are multi-use. To make bread and stuff like that. Then there's so rice is great. It can sit for a very long time as long as it's kept completely dry, usually in a sealed container, like a good airtight container, and you add water and you have a food source.
All right. So we're going to move on.
Okay. Tori's telling me I'm talking too much.
Yeah. He goes on tangents, got to rein him in sometimes. All right. So we all know that next on the list that was incredibly informative. Thank you very much. So, so the next on the list is shelters, and we all know that we all need to learn how to build shelters. So, Tabby, what's your education on shelters? Like, do you know how to build some shelters?
I know how to put up a tent, and I know how to find an empty house, but that's about it. I can find an empty car, or get in the sewer system, or something like that.
You may become a Ninja Turtle if you do that.
Yes, or find
careful of the sewer system
cave to hide in, but no, as far as building a structure, no. I don't know. I might be able to figure it out, but I don't have skills.
All right, so from my memory is a little fuzzy, obviously, because it's been a couple years since I wrote this stuff down, but there are different shelters depending on different environments that are easy to build, like a lean-to, like a teepee. There's different. You always want to make sure that the ground is flat, and you always want to have big branches, but you also need cover, so you need foliage.
Yes.
You know? So if you make a teepee, you kind of, I don't know if how dumbed down I need to make this, but you take 3 points, the top of the points.
Girl, I know what a teepee is.
Well, I know I'm educating other people. I figure you would know what a teepee is, considering your Native American love for Native Americans.
Yes.
Isn't Jim a Native American?
He's part Cherokee, but I'm part Lenni Lenape, Delaware Indian. But we didn't live in teepees. We lived in longhouses.
Okay, what are those?
They were houses built on stilts, but they were long and they were up off the
Hence
ground.
the name Long Houses. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They were
All right,
mostly
so-
fishermen.
So if you're in a desert environment, there are things nowadays that I think are really cool. They're called Earth ships, and they make them in like New Mexico and Arizona. There's these whole communities of people that live off the grid, meaning that nothing in their house has is relies on any sort of power, electricity, anything that can be built. That's the point that they want. They don't want to live where they can be traced. So the cool thing about these things is it's kind of like an adobe, and I'm not sure if everybody knows what an adobe is out there, but it's a hut made out of grass, straw, and mud, right? Well, now they
Yes.
kind of evolutionized it a little bit. So they include either tires or aluminum cans and in with this mud, and then they build a house with it. And the cool thing about the tires is that it has to be tires or like aluminum cans, something that can retain heat, because during the day the sun beats down and it absorbs all this heat, and then it keeps the heat inside the house overnight. So the entire time that you're in this house, it keeps it at a temperate, pretty much the same temperature day or night for months and months and months. It's usually like 65 degrees, so very
Right.
comfortable living, you know. And then they usually have aquaponics going on in these houses where they, you know, have running water filters, fish and plants that filter the water and clean the water, and then they reuse it for their plants that they grow to eat for. And one thing that, you know, we're talking about food and stuff like that. We're going to go back to that real quick. It's really important to know how to garden. It's really important to know how to grow your own plants, because he was talking about seeds. Well, you can have all the seeds in the world, but if you don't know how to grow the plants, then you're not going to get anything. So it would be very advisable to learn how to start off with some tomatoes or some cucumbers. Green beans are really easy to grow. You know, one summer, just have a bunch of stuff to grow, and it'll help you in the long run, because if you ever need to grow it, and when shit hits the fan, then you'll be a little well versed, you know. And one cool thing about earthships too is that once they're built, it's very little maintenance. It's very part of the earth, and it lasts for a very long time. So I'm going to give you back to Andrew for a second so he can tell you about different ones that he knows how to build.
Hey guys, back. All right, so excuse me. So, like I said before, you've got two different situations: stay or run. If you stay, you need to have a secure location, a secure building. Now, in the long term,
I'm just thinking.
I'm just trying to see what it was. So in the long term, you need to be careful about roofs caving, buildings falling apart. But in the short term, you're good. You're protected, and that's probably the best place to be. On the run, there's several things out there. Now, Tabby, you did say you knew how to put up a tent.
Yes.
I have a very simple A-frame tent. It is 2 poles, and it creates just a little triangle big enough for one person and their gear in my car,
Yes.
just in case. They have it at Bass Pro Shops. It's like $30, and it's perfect. The next thing you can do is you take and you tie it at an angle from 2 trees down to the ground. That helps. Another thing, so my my primary means of shelter when I camp is a hammock. Okay. Excuse me. Hammocks I've been using for about 5 years now. And they're amazing. They keep you off the ground. Thank you. They keep you off the ground. They weigh about 2 pounds, and they are extremely compact. Just find two things. I've come from a truck bumper to a fence line, and I've used it that way. I've used trees, just any two things that you can tie off on that are far enough apart. I also have a rain fly that goes over the top of it to protect it as a mosquito net, which is very, very important. So hammocks, tents, A-frames, just having a tarp of some kind, or even like a poncho. Let's see.
Lean-tos.
A lean-to, which is kind of just basically half an A-frame. Let's see. Oh, location. Location dictates what you're going to use for shelter. If you're in a very flat area, more likely you'll have to create your own shelter. If you're in areas that have mountains, such as the Appalachian mountain range, down this side of the East Coast, the Rocky Mountains, upstate New York, where I'm from, the Adirondack Mountains. If you can find a recess, Pennsylvania has incredible cave systems that will protect you for a very long time. So semi-permanent shelter is very nice. But you have to also take into account, are you going to have to move very quickly? Again, situation dictates. If the situation is you just needed to get out of the city and you're camping, setting up something permanent, you'll have more time. You set up a temporary shelter, and then you start building a more permanent shelter using line, 550 cord, which I'm going to show you that real quick. So 550 cord is also referred to as paracord, and they sell it in all these military surplus shops. And I have a lot of it because I have access to it. This is all braided, and that's just something we do to keep it from tangling, and it also makes it half the length.
And
so
the survival bracelet that people
those survival bracelets are really cool. I have one at home. It's got a flint rod in it for starting fires, and I've used it to start a fire, and it works great. But carrying 550 cord is great because it is extremely strong. It has several uses. Inside the 550 cord is 5 white strands that are very thin. Those can be used to stitch the thread in a very, very emergency situation. They can be used as stitches to close wounds. They can be used as fishing line, stuff like that. Let's see. Tabby, what do you have? What else do you have on
For
shelter?
shelter,
For shelter. Yeah.
that's pretty much it. I mean, I have a plan if I have to bug in at home, you know, just to board up the windows and the doors, and I have a 6 foot fence around my house, so you know that's pretty
Okay, so let's
solid.
go through your entire at-home plan. So if you were at home, shit hits the fan, what is your plan of action?
My plan of action is to board up the doors and windows until shit settles down outside and stay in until we know what's going on with my critters.
That's a very good plan. So in a shit hits the fan situation, you'll have 2 types of people. The people trying to survive on their own or with groups, and then you'll have the people that are trying to survive off of everyone else, the looters, the raiders, and there's going to be a lot of them. So the harder you make it to get into your shelter, your house, the less likely they're going to try. Barricades, boarding windows, like you said. If you own a home, you can start setting your house up. Bars, putting bars on the windows. If I was a raider and I looked at two houses, and I can see inside one house, and I can see the windows, and the house next door to it's boarded up, more than likely, my first target is going to be the open house. Now, this is kind of leading us into self-defense, but I'm not going to go into that yet until Tori wants to go into that. So.
Well, we gotta keep it. We kind of got to keep it simple a little bit. So we pretty much have like different shelters and there's urban shelters. Of course, if you're in a city, you're going to want to, what he was talking about, protect your environment. So, not to keep reiterating to The Walking Dead, but there was an episode called Clear where one of the main characters, Morgan, he had barricaded himself into this house and he had set up stakes and he had all these booby traps. Booby traps are great. They're not just funny names for it's not Home Alone shit. Like, this is like the real deal. You want to keep people away from your stuff. I kind of think it would be funny if you built a moat around your shit, maybe a couple alligators, depending on where you live. I'm just kidding. But, so shelters are very important, and you should always educate yourself on different types of shelters in your local environment. Make sure that whenever you're making these plans, whoever you're including in your group, that y'all are on the same page, that y'all have local information. Okay, I live in Virginia. I don't live in a desert, okay? So my plan isn't going to be about the desert. My plan is going to be about what is local to me that will be resourceful for my survival. Ohio is different than Virginia, so you would have different things that you need for your survival, right? So what I want to go into is the must-haves of a bug out bag, because there's so much stuff out there that you can buy. You're like, oh my gosh, I need this and I need that, and then soon you're carrying like 2 totes and a fucking Louis Vuitton trunk, and you're trying to carry all this shit around because you think you need it. Because I'm sure like a lot of women, us women, are like, oh, but we need that. That shoe matches that outfit, and it could be translated into, well, then Mari will go for Friday night pork chops, and we need spaghetti Tuesdays, and we all have to keep it simple, because really we can't plan that much into it. We don't need cheese for our spaghetti. We have to keep it simple. So the must-haves in bug out bags, in my opinion, are water filtration systems, like he was talking about, things to start fires, which there are many different types of fires. There are cooking fires, there are signal fires, there are different types of ways to build fires in order to achieve those things. And if we had a little bit more time, I would go into it. But different military handbooks, they have different in different environments and different situations on how to build the proper type of fire for the environment that you're in. If you're in a wet climate, if you're in a dry climate, if you're in a frozen climate, in a desert climate, things. Now, I don't know, what other must-haves should people have in their bug out bag?
All right. I'll show you some of the stuff that I brought real quick. All right, so when you say bug out bag, the word bag is in the title. Okay, your bag, your pack, is probably the first thing you need to look at when doing something like this. They sell some great stuff out there because this has become kind of a fad and kind of a cool thing to do. But within that, you need to look at function over fashion. So what I use is and mainly because I've used it before. This is called an Alice pack. Okay, it's military. It's rugged. You can pick these up for relatively cheap. It has adjustable straps on the back, back pad, aluminum frame. Really, really simple to use, really comfortable for long term. So you want to look at your bag. Is it something that you can carry on your back for 10 miles, 15 miles, 20 miles, 20 days, 30 days? You need to be able to, it needs to be comfortable. Duffel bags are not a good thing to carry. Something with good straps, something durable. Okay, so always look at your pack first. Build your bug out bag around your pack. All right, so a few things that I grabbed just kind of real quick. We talked about fire. These are stormproof matches. They will burn, they will light even when wet, and they will continue burning very quickly. Basically, it's almost like a sparkler, but not fun.
Kind of like a flare, maybe?
It's kind of like a very small flare, which road flares are good to have in your vehicle. The next thing is, this is a Coleman little cook set that I picked up at Dick's a few years ago for a couple bucks. It's got a steel cook pot with a handle so you can heat it. It's got 2 plastic cups in it to use to drink and eat out of. That, if you can see, the lid is vented, so you can boil water with the lid on it. So that's a good thing to have. It's light, doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's easy. Oh, sorry, guys. All right, so the next thing is, this is really cool. This is called a Primus. Oh, I made it big. Okay. It's so much easier. I made the whole screen pick
you
camera.
press.
So, here's a little cook stove that I carry, and I've been carrying for a few years now. Basically, it's just it's a burner, and it hooks onto a small propane tank.
Now, is this a must-have or a luxury item?
I'd say both.
Okay.
Because depending on the weather and depending on the location and the climate, you may not be able to start a fire with what you have on hand. So having a backup that you can use to cook with is definitely useful.
I have
Depends on-
sterno cans and a little
cans.
sterno oven.
So there's another thing called trioxane fuel tablets. They're little white tabs that look like pills, and they burn pretty well. It's like a solid thing. So this is the can. It's not very big. It's fairly light. So this adapter screws right onto the top of the propane tank, and it'll burn very hot for quite a long time. So sterno's great. Sterno's a gel, so sterno does dry out over time. The trioxane fuel tablets, they're great, but they can degrade as well. The can I have here is propane. They sell adapters for large propane tanks that you can refill these smaller propane tanks. Next thing that I threw in here was this small hatchet that I picked up at Dick's for $5. Okay, it is extremely useful. It is very tough. It is very heavy. Not very heavy, but very, very thick. The back end can be used to hammer and hit, and the front, as long as you sharpen these are great. So this is a great small tool.
I gotta stop you for a second. I gotta go, guys.
Oh no. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. All right. So, I mean, there's also different. Let's just go real quick on different survival guides that should be good. Here's the zombie It's backwards. But Zombie Handbook for the Newly Undead. It's very comical. It's not serious. Recorded Attacks, the Zombie Survival Guide, Max Brooks. That's a really good one. And, of course, if you read Days Gone By from The Walking Dead, the first comic, very informative, too. But, I mean, there's a zillion groups out there. There's a zillion people that are really into it. A very big knife. You should always have very good knives and guns and weapons in your survival. But we can do a part 2 of this because obviously there's a lot more going on. But so far we have learned a lot about prepping. I didn't realize how much information he knows.
Yes.
Yeah. So we definitely need to have a part 2 on this. And I hope everybody has learned a little something because I definitely have.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We'll do part 2 and part 3. So Tabby, where can people get you on social media?
Okay, you can get me on Instagram at the Governess of Infectious. You can find me at 3 Facebook groups: The Walking Dead: Rise of the Wolf Pack, The Infectious Walking Dead, The Walking Dead: The Governess of Woodbury, and you can get me on Twitter at Tabitha Thiede.
You tweeting, you did Instagram, right? Cool.
Yes.
All right. And Kinte wasn't really on here, so he doesn't really count.
Kinte not count.
I love you, Kinte, but you weren't in this one, so nobody needs to know where you are. If you want to hit up Andrew, tell them how they can hit you up.
Best way to hit me up is hit up Tori and she'll get a hold of me. I don't usually use social media.
He's off the grid living.
Ooh.
It's kind of the military thing. The Navy monitors our Facebook, and if you're watching Navy, hi. They do, and I don't care about that. That's fine. There are people out there that post stuff that they should not post, and they get in trouble for it. So I try not to use social media. But contact Tori.
All right. So if you wanna ask him any questions, you can contact me. You can friend me on Facebook at Tori Rush, ToryRush. And if you look pretty normal, I will probably busty women with big asses. I tend not to friend them. You can find me in my group, The Infectious Walking Dead. You can also find me on Twitter at Rush Tori. That's with TRY. You can get the Infectious Geek on there, Geek_Infectious, and the Infectious Walking Dead also has a Twitter. We have a group, Instagram _the Infectious Walking Dead, and I am starting my own survival, halfway through my own survival guide. So please be on the lookout in the next 6 months for the Survivalist Guide to a Zombie Apocalypse, which is going to be a cheeky rendition of a woman's point of view on how to survive off the grid. And we'll talk more about that whenever we do part 2 and part 3 of this. But so I just want to thank everybody for listening, and thanks Tabby for sticking around for the last 5 minutes because I know we got a little blabby, but it was worth it.
Problem.
Very informative. But yes. So next week we're going to be doing LARPing, but we're going to have it on a different day. It's going to be on Sunday and it's going to be early. So if you can't make it, you can still download it. We'll have it on YouTube and you can Google it and all that stuff. Or you can also listen to indiaradio.org at around 1 p.m. Eastern around that time. It may or may not change the time. We haven't solidified that yet. But thank you so much for keeping watch with us and listening to us through the whole season so far, because we've been having a blast, and hopefully more fun shows to coming, like LARPing, like I really want to get into more dark stuff, like serial killers and all that kind of stuff too. So we're gonna a wide range of stuff. We'll probably be having more special guests on, and so just keep tuned. And if not, we'll see you on. Well, no, the next 2 weeks are going to be a little froggy, but then we'll go back to our normal schedule. So thank you guys for listening so much, and we'll keep you updated on the time changes. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.